shines in the dark with the light of who you are. So let there be light.
Why do the chicken coops only have 2 doors? Because if they had 4, it would be chicken sedans. Oh my gosh.
What do you call a laughing motorcycle? A Yamaha. A Yamaha.
Who is the greatest babysitter mentioned in the Bible? David. He rocked Goliath to sleep.
At what time of day was Adam created? A little before Eve. Get out of here.
What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
All right, what do you call a fish with 2 knees? A 2-knee fish. 2-knee? I know, it took me a little long. Late.
A cop just knocked on my door and told me that my dogs were chasing people on bikes. My dogs don't even own bikes.
Did you know the first French fries weren't actually cooked in France? They were cooked in Greece.
Oh.
Who wrote that one?
I tried to eat a clock the other day. It was really time consuming. Mwah, mwah.
Who was the smallest person in the Bible? Nehemiah.
Need an ark? I know a guy.
How does Moses start his morning? Anybody? He brews a pot of coffee. Jeez, nice.
Can February March? No, but April may.
Who was the greatest comedian in the Bible? Samson. He brought the house down. Yeah.
Those are awful. Awfully good. Just like what I grew up with.
G'day guys, welcome to church. We're going to move into a time of worship shortly. Our team has recorded another song. Really grateful for everybody who's been involved. I think I'm speaking for everyone when I'm saying we are so blessed by both the musical talent and the technical talent to be able to bring all of this together and have our own people leading us in worship. And it just sounds spot on, Bevan. So let's just prepare ourselves for a little bit of time of worship. And then finally, the only other thing I wanted to say is if you yourself or anyone that you know of, and it doesn't have to be in the church, but anyone you know of is struggling at the moment, struggling to get by because of COVID, be it from food point of view, be it from they've lost money or any of that sort of stuff, just send us an email at care@ncfc.org.au. We want to love this city. We want to watch this city prosper. We want to take part in being people who move this city forward and move it forward for Jesus. Bless you guys.
I can see the promised land, though there's pain within the plan. There is victory in the end. Your love is my battle cry. When my fears like Jericho build their walls around my soul, when my heart is overthrown, your love is my battle cry, the anthem for all my life. Every giant will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into, over fear, over lies. We're singing the truth that nothing is impossible with you. There is hope within the fight, in the wars that wage inside. Though the shadows steal the light, your love is my battle cry, the anthem for all my life. Every giant will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into, over fear, over lies. We're singing the truth that nothing is impossible. Every giant will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into, over fear, over lies. We're singing the truth that nothing is impossible with you. No greater name, no higher name, no stronger name than Jesus. You overcame, broke every chain, forever reign, King Jesus. No greater name, no higher name, no stronger name than Jesus. You overcame, broke every chain, forever reign, King Jesus. Every giant will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into, over fear, over lies. We're singing the truth that nothing is impossible. Every giant will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into, over fear, over lies. We're singing the truth that nothing is impossible with you.
Behold the Father's heart, the mystery He lavishes on us, as deep cries out to deep. Oh, how desperately He wants us. The things of earth stand next to Him like a candle to the sun. know should know would save you. Forsaken for the sake of all mankind, salvation is in his blood. Jesus Messiah, the righteous died for love, and it wasn't over, for he is the risen one. Then sings my soul, then sings my soul, how great your love is, how great your love is. Then sings my soul, then sings my soul, how great your love is, how great your love is. Then sings my soul. Behold, I have a friend, a spirit-breathing Holy Fire within, my ever-present help, speaking truth when I can't find it. But earth is broken heart and light my way till my time on earth is done. Oh, Holy Spirit, breathe in me like kingdom come. Oh, Holy Spirit, let your work in me be done. Then sings my soul, then sings my soul, how great your love is, how great your love is. Then sings my soul, then sings my soul, how great your love is, how great your love is. Then sings my soul, then sings my soul, how great your love is, how great your love is. Then sings my soul. My God, He was and is to come. Prepare the way until the work on earth is done. Watch as the clouds He rides swing low, lift up the sound as He makes our praise His throne. Behold,
Well, g'day guys, welcome back. I can't really say it's good to see you. You're not here. I haven't come up with a better intro yet, so we're going to stick with that one. Hopefully for some of you, I might have seen you a little bit earlier this morning at our 9:45 kids Zoom. Hopefully that was a bit of fun. We would have hopefully had some really good learning from a couple of our mates, Larry and Bob. I don't know if that means anything to some of the older generation, but there were some stories told by some vegetables. And yeah, it's always a good time. And after the service, after this message, really looking forward to maybe connecting with some of you at 11:30 on the sort of post-church Zoom for half an hour where we're going to take some time. It's not necessarily that you have to discuss the sermon, but you can if you want. It's more a time just to see one another's faces. You know, we can talk about all the things I've said. You can talk about how many eggs your chickens are laying. You know, you do you. It's a time to just sit with one another, connect with one another. Yeah, so looking forward to hopefully seeing a few of your faces then. Guys, I'm just going to hook straight in. I'm going to hook straight into the sermon. Last week, we were sort of talking about this idea that we as people are living in a foreign land. You know, we are living in a land where we've been sent, you know, our life paralleling to the Israelites when they were in Babylon. God said to the Israelites, I'm going to keep you here for 70 years and after that I'll bring you home. Now, it's pretty remarkable how close that is to average lifespan. And what are we doing with our time? What are we doing with our time here and now? How are we helping? How are we actually like living into the words that Jeremiah gave to the Israelites, helping to prosper this city, work for this city to become a better place? And then also we talked about where the church has sort of maybe fallen down a little bit as far as culture and the way we engage culture. The church for many, many years, you know, probably close to 100 years has been more of a reactionary body to what's happening in society and culture than being the thing that is truly defining the next step forward. And I sort of talked to you guys about how that's something that in this day and age is no longer really all that possible, because as far as the church goes, we are no longer the majority voice, and so we cannot define and react to culture and sway culture just simply through reaction. We need to be people who are proactive in the way in which we are actually engaging the world. This week, I sort of want to talk to you guys about, you know, this idea of significance as the church. Earlier this week, we were having a team meeting, and I actually wasn't going to call this sermon Significance in the Church. Earlier this week, we're having a team meeting, and we were talking about some of our values and what we wanted to do, the values we wanted to have as a staff here at Now Church of Christ. And JT brought up this really great, you know, this is hilarious because I've got JT sitting right there, but he brought up this really interesting point around success versus significance. Success being something that is about me. I am successful. It's an inward-focused attitude. And significance, being significant, is actually about your impact on the people around you, the context around you. And I want to talk to you today about how are we being significant as a church? How are we being significant in our context? And it's one thing to sort of look at, you know, what we did last week and point out where we've struggled, but we also need to sort of have a bit of a conversation about what are some of the ways we're going to move forward. How are we going to go about shifting some of the culture in this community to better engage those in our local context? And first of all, I want to raise this dynamic that seems to be happening in culture. We all know that in the past few years, there's been a myriad of, you know, social causes, people coming to prominence with really loud social cultural voices, different situations that divide the world about how we need to respond to them. And And I'm just going to refer to all these different things because often it's injustice that brings these situations to light. And I'm just going to refer to them as injustices. But there is a dynamic at play in culture. And it sort of goes a little like this. We as people, we first, you discover the injustice, right? You hear about it. Be it on the news, be it on Facebook, be it in a conversation with someone at the local supermarket, you hear about it, you discover it. And then the next step is you make a decision to learn more about it. You make a choice that I am going to go and research this. And then we find ourselves already, after just those first two little things, we find ourselves in the third step, which is we are actually engaging with other people's opinions on the injustice. Sorry, excuse me. We are finding other people who are informing us about said injustice, situation, person, social cause, whatever it may be. And that's good. And then we begin to, I guess, gravitate towards the opinions of those that we feel most comfortable with. And that's natural. We start to go, wow, I really agree with your opinion. I disagree with yours. I like your methodology in the research. I don't like your methodology. So on and so forth. Finally, we form an opinion. We form an opinion for ourselves and we start to stick by it. But then we get to this really apparently tricky space. And that's, we start to become really cognizant or aware of the fact that there are people in the world or even in our families, our local church community, our local workplace, whatever it is, who, shock horror, have a difference of opinion. And this is where I want to pause. The way the world works at the moment is that if you do not hold an opinion that aligns with the majority opinion or the socially accepted opinion, you are often cast aside as some sort of social pariah. You are often pushed away as people are insulted personally or their thoughts are insulted. It becomes quite personal for people who maybe don't align with the status quo. I personally believe that this is where we as Christians, we have a really amazing opportunity. We have the opportunity to offer a different path. You see, when people form their opinions, there's often a whole lot of condemnation and shame thrown around in the world today if other people don't align with us. We might be throwing the condemnation, they might be throwing it at us. But we as Christians, we actually have this ability to offer people a path of love and sort of marching to our own drumbeat, defined and guided by the principles of Jesus Christ. And part of that is we also need to learn to sit in the tension of difference. We need to learn to sit in the tension of difference. We need to do that whilst lovingly being able to express the heart of God. Let me tell you this. When we encountered people with different opinions or different lifestyles, often the best way to sort of show people the message of Jesus is not to go up to them and tell them how wrong they are, how broken they are, how much they suck, or how much they're not living into their identity. That's not the way we show people the message of Jesus. Now, a side note, it doesn't mean that their behavior, their thought process is right, but it just means you are placing your relationship with the person above immediately needing to correct them, immediately needing to fix them. Guys, I think significance in the mission of God is in moments like this, not losing relationship with the person in front of us who may be presenting in such a way that maybe it doesn't align with the lifestyle of a Christian. You see, how else will people learn to step into living in the light of God? How else will people learn to actually hear the message of Jesus unless we, sit in the tension of, okay, that's a difference of opinion, or that's maybe not the way in which we go about life as followers of Christ, but sitting in the tension of not having to immediately fix. Because let me give you a scenario that is unfortunately all too common. And I've heard people say this, and I'd say 95% of the time, it ends as an absolute disaster. I'm just being honest. Those are my personal statistics. It's what I have personally witnessed. You may have different ones, but it is certainly what I've witnessed. But when people say things along the lines of, I love you enough to risk your friendship by telling you what's wrong or telling the truth, right? 95% of the time, that risking of the friendship seems to be the loss of a friendship. Now, the reason I'm bringing something like this up is because often when somebody says this statement, I love you enough to risk your friendship, there's this part that the person who's hearing that, they hear an extra part. It's actually, you're uncomfortable enough with me at the moment to risk our friendship to tell me how I should be. And then also there's this other part that they go, you're also risking my relationship with God. Because 95% of the time when I've seen people have that approach, there's an awfully high amount of people who not only get hurt because they actually weren't ready to hear the truth about how they are currently living life. They weren't ready, but also they go, well, maybe this person who is a representative of God, who is the hands and feet of God, is telling me something about myself, telling me that I'm too much for God, telling me that I'm not enough for God, whatever that might be. Now, guys, am I advocating here for a lack of accountability? No. But some people don't have access or can't hear certain truths in the moment where they're in a moment of pain. And our call as children of God is to sit with them in the pain, walk with them, journey with them, and learn to show them the way, the truth, and the light. And maybe in 2 weeks' time, they will be able to hear the truth of their situation. Maybe in 6 months' time, they'll be able to hear the truth of the situation. And maybe in 6 years' time, they'll be ready to hear that truth. But let me tell you right now, we as now Church of Christ, we're not called to be the morality police. I want to say this really directly. I don't want to hear that any of you are running around this community with your morality police badge telling people that they are broken, that they're worthless, that they're not okay. If you feel a consistent need to tell people how bad they are, how much they're missing the mark, how broken they are, well, there's other communities in Nowra that may be okay, but that's not the space that we are creating here. And if you feel like you have to keep doing that, go explore the communities where that dynamic is allowed. But it's not something that we want to cultivate here at Nowra Church of Christ, to consistently be telling people, hey, you don't measure up. I'm not going to lead a church that cannot sit in the tension of difference and cannot hold people who may be struggling to live into their God-given identity with love. I will not apologize for that. And this is one of the reasons why so many people have left the church. this church, we could not hold people in tension and with love and value the person whilst also having a difference. So we need to learn to sit with tension. Again, am I advocating for a lack of accountability? Absolutely not. But accountability is not condemnation. Accountability is genuine concern, genuine listening, with the Spirit of God prompting us. If we are not listening to another person with ears to hear, not respond, then we are not actually being a good accountability person for that person. We are just listening to tell somebody once again where they have messed up, where they are wrong, where they make us feel uncomfortable. Because often when we feel the need in us to arise, it's because we're not comfortable. And learning to sit in difference is going, I feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to hold the line here. I'm going to hold a space because I value the person in front of me. Life isn't always black and white. And when we think in this terminology of, I just have to correct people, that is black and white thinking. And now I'm going to say something that you may think like, that makes no sense and it's a random statement. But once again, life isn't black and white, but I think Scripture sometimes also shows us that it is. What do I mean by this? Well, let me take you to the parable of the sower in Luke 8. One day, Jesus told a story in the form of a parable to a large crowd that had gathered from many towns to hear him. A farmer went out to plant his seed. As he scattered it across his field, some seed fell on a footpath where it was stepped on, and the birds ate it. Other seed fell among rocks. It began to grow, but the plant soon wilted and died for a lack of moisture. Other seed fell among thorns that grew up with it and choked out the tender plants. Still other seed fell on fertile soil. This seed grew and produced a crop that was 100 times as much as had been planted. When he had said this, he called out, anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. His disciples asked him what this parable meant. He replied, you were permitted to understand the secrets of the kingdom of God, but I use parables to teach the others so that the scriptures might be fulfilled. When they look, they won't really see. When they hear, they won't understand. And then Jesus goes on to sort of talk about the meaning of this parable to the disciples. But what I want to talk to you about is sort of this concept that is found here in this bit of scripture. Jesus says this, you are permitted to understand the secrets of the kingdom of God. If it wasn't for the permission of Jesus, the disciples wouldn't have had access to the truth found here, right? And so, in one sense, the disciples had access to the truth, and they saw things as they were. But for those who hadn't been given that permission, it was a grey area. There was a whole lot of interpretation around this parable, and they were trying to, people would try and understand it. They may not understand it. Some might, as they followed the path of Jesus. And so in one sense, life can be all sorts of grey as we don't understand. But then with the permission of Jesus, as Jesus reveals things to us, as the Spirit of God touches our hearts and invigorates our mind to a concept, all of a sudden the truth is made clear. And so things are grey and things are black and white. But let me give you the point in which the church, I would believe, has really struggled in the past 50, 100 years. We have forgotten that it is with the permission and the revelation of God that we have access to the spiritual truth, the insight about a situation. We have forgotten that we need to sit in the presence of God and pray and allow the Spirit to touch our hearts, to move us to the God-given truth, the way to move forward. We have forgotten to do that. And in essence, in so many times, so many moments throughout church history, and I will say it bluntly, in so many moments in the history of this church and in the history of you as a believer, I'm sure, we forget to include God in our response to something that is desperately needing the touch of the Spirit. And why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about the fact that things are grey but black and white and we aren't actually including God in our discernment? Well, the problem is when we stopped including God, when our response to people is from conventional human wisdom and it doesn't include a touch from the Spirit of God, we're pretty much just doing the exact same thing that culture does. We offer the way or our best understanding of what the good thing to do in the situation would be. And there is no divine guidance over it. And in doing so, the church has stopped being a place that is safe for broken people to come. Because often, if we look at culture, the majority response is condemnation or saying things are wrong. The majority response is rallying against. And as I talked about last week, the church has been a place that has reacted against culture. And we have that in our own body, where we just react to things. And so when the Spirit of God isn't guiding our hearts, our response to people in front of us who might be experiencing pain, well, it's just human conventional wisdom. And essentially, we are people who are placing a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound with conventional human wisdom. And so less and less people come into church communities because they don't find in churches a community who are willing to hold tension and difference and go, hey, you're a new believer. Hey, you're an old believer. Hey, things aren't going well for you at the moment, but we can hold a space in love for you because we know and we trust the Spirit of God is at work in you, and that one day this is something that you will be set free from. I wonder if we as a church could be a place where we could hold difference, hold tension for difference, hold tension for those who are broken once more. Because when the church became a place that wasn't safe for the broken, it just became a club. It became a club full of people who came here and went, well, this isn't safe to be broken, so we're all just going to pretend that we're all perfect and we're all okay. And we come on a Sunday and we sit here and we ask each other, how are you? And people with the fear of being broken just say, I'm okay. Or they express, if they express anything, they share the fruit of what's going wrong. I'm really struggling with X, Y, Z, and that's really hard, but sharing the actual root cause of what's really affecting them, it's too dangerous, because the response that they've had in the past is someone just trying to fix them. Someone just trying to go, hey, you need to be better. You're not living into your identity as a Christian. And they weren't met with love and honor and respect. And it goes from our church service, and then it plays out, and it gradually starts to play out in our small groups. You know, our Monday small group, our Tuesday, our Wednesday. It no longer becomes a place where people can genuinely bring the root pain in their hearts, because they're just going to be told that you need to trust Jesus more. You need to do this to be okay, or I don't believe you're living right, and people walk away having presented their deepest pain, their struggle, the gunshot wound with a little Band-Aid over it. And what's more, as the person put the Band-Aid on, they inflamed the wound and caused more pain. You know, guys, I want to put this to you. I think significance in the church would be that it is once more a place that broken people can feel welcome. The church would be a body that broken people out in the community understand how much we are for them, and how much we love them, and how much we want to just care for them. Guys, you know, 100 people who are disgruntled with all the churches in Nowra could come and walk through the doors and come to our church once all this COVID stuff is over. You know, we could have 100 more Christians come through the door. But let me put it this way. The reality is if our local community, those who don't know God, those who are in the midst of pain and suffering, do not actually experience our presence, our love, our care, our ability to sit in tension and see, yes, you may not be living into the identity that God has for you, but we are in this for the long run. We love you enough that we are in it for the long run. Be it a new believer or a believer of 20 years. We want to love you enough that we are in this, and we trust the Spirit of God enough that there is work happening inside of you. If we can't do that, then we're missing the point. We are missing the point. I want to end with this question, guys, because I think for us to be significant as a church, for us to show some form of significance and impact our local community, we desperately need to ask ourselves this question. If this church was to disappear tomorrow, would the local community feel a loss? I want you to sit with that. I want you to sit with that. Bless you guys.
Lord, I want to be a world changer, be a city on a hill that shines in the dark with the light of who you are. So let there be light.